I read out of Lord of the Horizon, a far memory book by Joan Marshall Grant. It plays in ancient Egypt. It is the story of Ra-Ab. We follow him here again after the previous book, The Eyes of Horus, where the Eyes of Horus was a group of rebellion. They won the fight against Set. So now the Oryx, which is the nomarch of Ra-Ab's, has a new ruling, new laws, very kind. People don't need to be afraid of Pharaoh anymore. The new Pharaoh after the battle is Amenemhet, and he has married the daughter of Horus, who is a Babylonian, and there is a little trouble because they're not happy together. And I am here in the chapter entitled The Babylonian, and it is chapter 8, and I continue chapter 8 because Amenemhet and Ra-Ab just had a conversation, and Ra-Ab says, "We shall be waiting for you when you need your friends again." On my way home I stayed a night at Hotep Ra, hoping that Rodan might be able to think of some way by which we could release Amenemhet from his prison of imaginary guilt. "You are right," said Rodan, "in fearing that he has come under the domination of Horus. While I was staying in the palace at the time of Pharaoh's marriage, I took the opportunity to meet her whenever possible. Her calm, formal demeanor is a mask for one of the most powerful personalities I have ever encountered. Had she, instead of her father, been king of the Babylonians, we should have needed a great army to defend Egypt. Hers is the character of a ruthless tyrant, possessing a terrible singleness of purpose which drives her on to dominate everything with which she comes into contact. Foreigners do not treat their women as do Egyptians, and it must have been bitter for her to undergo the restrictions imposed on a princess at the Babylonian court. She would have been allowed power of life and death over her servants, and no doubt exercised it whenever it suited her. But her sphere of action would have been strictly limited, and in her father's eyes her value was to be counted only through her husband. That is, no doubt, why she was so eager to be used to strengthen the alliance with Egypt. She knew that in Egypt it might be possible for her to exercise her powers more widely and as the queen. Providing that she was able to dominate her husband, she could at last realize her ambitions. Because she desires to dominate, she would expect others to try to guard themselves against such influence. That is why she played the part of the meek wife, who wished only be allowed to live in seclusion with her children. She was like a captain who, while he trains his warriors for the attack, hopes to lull his enemy into a sense of false security. It was a pity that the blow to her ambitions caused by Amenemhet's death was not sufficient to kill her. Why do you think it was a blow? Surely that is obvious. It destroyed her hope of becoming queen. It is the power which she desires, not necessarily the outward sign of it. I have little doubt that her influence played a great part in getting the North to declare that unless Amenemhet's daughter became the royal wife, they would not give allegiance to Amenemhet. Once her daughter was queen, the daughter whom she found it so much easier to dominate than her husband had been, she thought that she would virtually rule Egypt. She was very subtle. She told her daughter so often that it was her duty to marry Amenemhet, that had it not been for you and Mary, Nefertitasen might never have come to realize that she loved her husband. For the power of the Babylonian to be complete, she had to dominate not only her daughter and Pharaoh, but also their children. Therefore it was a part of her plan that the royal heir be estranged from his parents. It was easy for her to act behind the pretense of grandmotherly devotion. At most, she could be accused of being over-anxious for the child's welfare. She chose the nurses, women who would be obedient to her wishes, and no one else. She made Nefertari believe that if she interfered, the child would suffer, and so further estranged the parents by making them feel that they were bound to each other only by their duty. Even the conceiving of the child was a duty, performed faithfully but with repugnance. Then Amenemhet remembered his friends, and because the call he made to them was in the name of love, she was powerless against it. Her hatred for you and Mary must have had something in it of the hatred of Sekhmet for Ra. Only a woman with almost superhuman strength would have concealed her feelings so cleverly. It was a brilliant stroke to make Amenemhet believe that she sorrows because you will not extend to her your friendship. It was essential for her plans to isolate him from his friends. And now that she cannot influence him through his wife, she is making him destroy his own will. Even she could never do that. Is she not already doing so? A man's rightful power comes from the knowledge of his strength in Ra. By making him believe that he is guilty, she is causing him to deny his own strength. Had he not always been troubled by austerity, the weapons she is using would have been blunted. He has always tended to forget that vitality must have its rightful outlet through all vehicles of the spirit before the heart can maintain perfect balance in the scales of Tahuti. She has made him think that physical love is lust, and that for the body to refuse companionship is to show itself superior to ordinary flesh. I think that she was very cunning. I think that was very cunning of her, Ra-Ab. I thought that was very cunning of her, Ra-Ab, though it is a weapon which Set had often put in the hands of his pupils. Make a man feel guilty and he will soon believe that he is evil. And when he believes that he is evil, it is not difficult for him to give Set the title of father. When Amenemhet is sufficiently convinced of his guilt, Kyosotaurus will pretend to reassure him, for in doing so he will come to look upon her as his only comforter. Is there nothing we can do, Rodan? I would take upon myself the responsibility of destroying that woman, and I should consider myself honored that she died by my hand. You and I are Amenemhet's closest friends, and for the moment he has chosen the Babylonian in our stead. If we were to kill her, he would neither trust us nor any others of the eyes of Horus. Therefore I'm afraid that your plan, though are courageous, is impractical. Then what can we do? Nothing except pray that he will remember our friendship and call us in his name. Even Ra can do no more for mankind until they remember him. So that is chapter 8. The next chapter 9 is Seed of the Earth, and I'll read that next time. Have a lovely Sunday. It is the 24th of March.